On today's show, the Sixers start the season 0-2, and the fans in Philly are booing Joel Embiid already. Is it time to worry about the Sixers? Plus, a fun one in LA and our biggest overreactions from opening week. All of that and much more on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked NBA Friday, everybody, your daily podcast on the NBA, however you might be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with Adam Mares. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. We're going to get to the Clippers win over the Lakers and our biggest overreactions that might actually be true in a minute. But let's start in Philadelphia, where the Bucks beat the 76ers 90-88. And Giannis, Brook Lopez, they look great, okay? But the story here is the 76ers, who got booed by their own fans in the second half. More specifically, Joel Embiid, who
I was going to say, they weren't all booed.
They were all booed. It was mostly Embiid. 15 points on 6 of 21 shooting overall. Went scoreless in the second half. 0 for 7, 3 turnovers in that second half. The 76ers, the winners of the offseason, Adam, the losers so far of the regular season, starting 0-2. The question is being begged, should we be worried about the Sixers?
I mean, sure. If you start 0-2, they were two good games, two tough teams. You're basically playing the teams you're going up against in the Eastern Conference. So it's not horribly surprising, but at the same token, you don't want to go 0-2 to start your season. That's always bad. You always start from a little bit of a hole. Long term, I do think that there's going to be some bumps along the way. This is a new team. James Harden joined Joel Embiid's team last year. They both join a new team, a new iteration of this team now. And through 2 games, it really has looked like James Harden has been the one that's more comfortable with the new direction of the team. And it looks like Joel Embiid is the one who is maybe a little bit more uncomfortable with it. But I still think that the talent is there. And I think the other overarching thing I have now from watching 2 Philly games, but especially tonight, is that Joel Embiid looks like he is in August shape. He doesn't look like he's in October shape. And I think that's part of why you saw those numbers you saw in the second half tonight.
Completely flipped to James Harden and Joel Embiid. You're right. Harden's been awesome. That was one of the points I wanted to make. He's scoring 30+ in each of the first 2 games. The assists are coming. Everything that you want to see from James Harden, you're seeing. I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to say that we need to be worried because you lost a game against Boston and then you lose a game against Milwaukee. And I know that the Celtics had the stuff happening with Ime Udoka, but it's the same team. New coach. Choose more gum, but same team. And and look, the Sixers are a little bit different, but I'm sorry, the Bucks are basically the same. They're missing Chris Middleton and stuff like that, but they know they're what they are. They have an identity, and it kind of feels like Philly is still trying to figure things out. Defensively, they switched some things, and I think we saw that kind of, we saw the ugly side of that at the end of that that Bucks loss where they just completely blew their defensive coverage on that Wes Matthews 3-pointer that ended up winning the game for Milwaukee. But I'm not too concerned just given the competition that they faced in the opening week. We're just 2 arguably better teams, at least right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, the only thing I will say is that James Harden has played on a couple of teams. He was in Oklahoma City early on in his career, and even then, it was so early in his career, there was 2 styles to that team, his style and the other guy's style, but it was so early in his career, let's throw it out. You go to Houston, he's the guy, everybody else is a satellite. You go to Brooklyn, and he did have some peaks there. He had some good moments, but most of the time, he prefers to have the ball in his hands. He prefers to play a certain style. Through 2 games, he has looked extremely comfortable, while I felt like Joel Embiid has looked extremely uncomfortable. So you're right that I think this is just growing pains of a new iteration of the 76ers. And I do think that this is a thing in 6 weeks. It'll start to coalesce and you'll start to say, okay, both guys getting comfortable. But I think between now and that point, there's going to be a lot of rough patches as they both try to figure out and blend the 2 styles. And I wouldn't be surprised if you don't handle those situations well, which, by the way, Joel Embiid has not always handled situations well with clashes with teammates. James Harden has not always handled things well with clashes of teammates. So there's always a chance that this rocky patch, you don't get through it, not because you're not capable of it, but just because the personalities aren't willing to.
There's definitely a chance, and to your point, like that pick and roll that we kept citing all offseason, hey, 1.15 points per possession every time Joel Embiid and James Harden were involved in a pick and roll. That chemistry has not been there through 2 games. Like whatever it was that they found just spur of the moment last year after the trade deadline just doesn't exist right now. Maybe it's partly just because the offense is a little bit different. I think the defensive concerns are to me the biggest issue right now happening in Philly. I mean, again, I'll go back to that last possession, just allowing Wesley Matthews to get a clean 3-point shot off. That when you're up 2, it just that to me was inexcusable. You've got Joel Embiid completely helping off of him, following Grayson Allen into the paint. I don't know. Joel
Yeah, that
Embiid
was a
is an
weird choice.
experienced defender. It was weird. And then you've got Tobias Harris just forgetting to guard his man, Wesley Matthews, coming off of a screen and just completely loses him. These are guys who have been in this system for a long time, Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid. These are guys who have proven to be able to, and Joel Embiid, an elite defender at times. Tobias Harris, solid, if not above average, and then just completely missing their assignments. So I don't really know what was going on there.
I think it's just on Embiid's end, and I think really on the defensive end, Embiid's just, I don't think, in great shape. I mean, he really wore down, and even tonight, late in the game, he got Drew Holiday switched out onto Drew Holiday in space. And usually, you would think, Drew Holiday's quick, but he's not dynamic. He doesn't have a lot of things on his offensive game, and he just blew right by him for a layup, for a pretty simple layup. And you think, okay, Embiid, we've seen him be a better defender than that. But I do have to give
tip blocked by Brook Lopez at the basket too.
Brook Lopez tonight was incredible. Brook Lopez tonight, I know 17 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, like two block shots. But the defense he had on Joel Embiid in this game, I thought, was so impressive. Joel Embiid got some stuff going on, really early on. But after that, I just thought Brook Lopez made him work for things. There was a couple stonewallings at the rim where he just guarded him extremely well. Embiid went down, as he often does when he gets his shot blocked. He just falls for whatever reason. And I thought Brook Lopez tonight kind of, I mean, you don't want to say like ate his lunch, because look, Joel Embiid's still the better player, but I mean, he did better, more than enough to make this a win for Milwaukee tonight, eliminating what is one of the best big men in all the NBA.
Another bad sign too is just Joel Embiid refusing to talk to reporters after the game tonight. This is a player who tends to like the reporter back and forth a little bit. Usually he kind of likes to do the whole media stuff, the whole media thing. That's never a good sign. And we're 2 games into the season, Adam, and you're already pulling the I'm not going to talk to reporters tonight kind of thing. You do get the feeling that something's a little off with him. I don't know if it's the conditioning, even though it does look like that. I have no idea what it is, but it doesn't look good right now early for the Sixers. But I'm trying
games.
not to overreact. It's 2 games against arguably the 2 best teams in the Eastern
But I'm
Conference,
saying, Embiid,
who already have more of an identity than you do.
Talk to reporters. It's 2 games. Come on. What do you think people are going to say? It's 2 games. Any reporter that gives you the heat, it's like, come on, man. Come on. But we got to give Giannis a shout out. We got to give him a shout out, because 21 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks. I mean, that's a Giannis stat line if I ever saw one.
The leader for MVP so far, Giannis.
Oh my God, I can't believe we're going there already. He was a plus 13. Yeah, he was a plus 13 though tonight, man, and you felt it. Like, he came out of the game in that third quarter, or I don't remember if it was late third or early fourth. He came out for 4 minutes, and James Harden and the 76ers made an entire run. The game came down to those few minutes he rested in the second half. Outside of that, I thought he dominated this game. He looked as good as ever, and he's been very impressive.
And Milwaukee's bench dominated Philadelphia's bench. Philly got, 13 points off of their bench. Milwaukee got, 15, 23, 29 points off of their bench. Again, I'll go back to what I said to start this. Philadelphia, winners of the offseason, the team that added all these guys, Daniel House, Montrezl Harrell, all these, D'Anthony Melton, all these guys. D'Anthony Melton gave you 9 off the bench, but other than that, you didn't really get a whole lot. So all these offseason moves that Philadelphia made, not exactly paying dividends yet, but maybe it's just ones that take a little bit of time. We're going to talk about the Lakers and the Clippers. Lakers, just like the Philadelphia 76ers, starting their season 0-2. That one was maybe a little bit more expected, but we will discuss whether or not we were worried about the Lakers and what we thought about our first look at this version of the Clippers next. But first, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for betting football and for the start of the new basketball season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information. With live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there, it's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, golf, and the NBA. Looking ahead to tonight, Friday night, the Pelicans, 6-point favorites in Charlotte. I don't think you could give the Pelicans too many points for this one, Adam. Give me the Pelicans tonight. Only 6 in Charlotte. The Hornets stink. The Pelicans are awesome. Give me the Pelicans. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, back here with Locked On NBA. We're going to get to our overreactions that might be true later on in the show. But first, the Lakers keep it close, but fall to the Clippers 103-97. LeBron had 20, 10, and 6. Anthony Davis had 25 and did have a little bit of an injury scare there, but did make it back to the court to finish the game. Lonnie Walker, scores 26 points. But those three didn't get much help outside of them. The Clippers, meanwhile, had 6 different players score in double digits, including one Kawhi Leonard, who had 14 points in 21 minutes coming off the bench, Adam.
Do you have 14 or do you have 11? My box score is saying 11. Am I wrong here? Kawhi Leonard. Oh, no, you're right. 14. 14, 7, 2, and 1. Wow.
Came off the bench as he's nursing this injury that he's coming back from that kept him out of all of last season. But which LA team did you find the most interesting and want to talk about?
Well, first of all, this is the reason I must be dyslexic, because I see Kawhi Leonard and Luke Kennard, which the same
Easily
letters
confused.
rearranged in different order.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, in a lineup, you couldn't even tell the difference. So,
so it's a little tough. What did you ask me? I'm sorry, I got distracted by words. Who stood out?
Just which LA team did you find more interesting tonight? The Lakers or the Clippers? We could do Lakers drama, or we could do Clippers. Basketball talk.
By far, it was the Clipper. I mean, the Lakers are uninteresting. They're wholly uninteresting. You just
tell that to TNT that put them on there. Put Reggie Miller and Harlan on their broadcast twice in 1 week.
And you mentioned Lonnie Walker's 26 points like it was interesting. I mean, somebody has to score points there. But I want to start with the Clippers and start with Kawhi Leonard, who came back, and it was really cool tonight. He gets the ball. First play in, he grabs a rebound, goes coast to coast, gets that little mid-range. Just classic Kawhi Leonard. Next play, he gets another mid-range, and you're thinking, oh, my God, this guy wasted no time. He looked like a robot, that'd been turned on for the first time in 2 years. He goes out there and he immediately gets to work. He did have some up and down moments, though. He cooled off a little bit after that. But the thing that stood out to me, they talk about he's added some weight. He's always been one of the strongest wing players, if not the strong. We got LeBron and then maybe him next.
Right.
And tonight he looked like it. He had a couple possessions, loose ball, going through traffic, going through guys. They just bounce off him. Loose ball, 50-50 ball. Just rips him out of everybody else's hands. To me, he looked like a guy that had missed a lot, even though he still has that technical perfection to his game. But just the strength that he's added was very noticeable to me.
I'm with you on the offensive end. I noticed it. But there were times when he was without the ball trying to get in position, and Russell Westbrook was just bodying him up, and that was sort of late in the game. You wonder if this is why they've sort of managed the minutes as the game went on. Maybe he lost a little bit of gas. But overall, I agree with your point. Like, he looks awesome. The broadcast started talking about whether or not the adding of the weight was a bad thing and it would affect the knee in some sort of negative way.
Good.
I guess, but he's not like, we're not talking about a 7-foot center here right now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know if that's going to matter for a wing. Like, Kawhi being 225 versus 235. I don't know how much that's going to matter, but I don't know. I don't know that.
It's tough to say. I will say he carries a lot of his weight in his lower body, and that's the thing that stood out to me is he just had. I mean, he looked really wide hips, big strong legs, and he was great. And those plays you're referencing, I thought they were great defensive plays by Russell Westbrook, 2 in a row to sort of deny the entry pass into the post, coupled with really bad entry passes.
That's
that
right.
lend themselves to be intercepted.
Can we talk about John Wall? Are we at the point in the podcast where he looked good? It was nice to see him out there. 15 points on 15 shots in 25 minutes, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He had a steal. He looked fast. He was pushing the pace in transition. When the Clippers acquired John Wall, one of the big things that they wanted to do was be able to create pace opportunities there where you get a defensive rebound, you're able to push the pace, you're able to find guys, because Paul George and Kawhi are so meticulous and a little bit more slow in the pace that they play with. You want to find some ways to just kind of get some A to B kind of speed there. I thought John Wall gave them that tonight in spurts. That was nice.
Yeah, I mean he's going to bring that every single night. That speed, and
Yeah.
and he's dynamic. He did hit a mid-range jumper that was extremely timely late in the game. What was interesting to me was he closed. You had Luke Kennard, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and then Zubac's there. And that's one of the things that's interesting to me. There's just so many players on this roster. Finding out what's going to be their closing lineup, was that because John Wall had it going a little bit more than Reggie Jackson tonight? Like, what were all the reasons? Norman Powell, Robert Covington. I think I want to see how Ty Lue handles that. Consistent rotation. Do you have a consistent clutch lineup, or do you kind of mix and match as you feel? And how does a team handle that? A lot of coaches prefer to have their 5 guys that know they're playing. Maybe you have one variable. For me, the Clippers have 2 guys that are going to be there, Kawhi, obviously, and Paul George, and everybody else is interchangeable, and that'll be an interesting dynamic.
Box score reading is never good radio, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's going to prove a point. All right. So I mentioned like the 6 players who were in double digits for the Clippers. I'm going to tell people who they are. Marcus Morris, 14 points. Ivica Zubac, 14 points. Paul George, 15 points. Kawhi had 14 points. John Wall, like I said, 15 points. And then Luke Kennard, 11 points. In addition to that, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different players playing at least 20 minutes. So the minute distribution is so evenly spread. I mean, you had Paul George playing 36 minutes, Zubac playing 35 minutes. Outside of that, nobody even came close to 30 minutes, including Kawhi, who only had the 21 minutes. You imagine as he gets healthier, he'll be closer to where Paul George is. But to your point, I still think there's so much mixing and matching here, and you can kind of play the hot hand a little bit. I was a little surprised that Zubac was in to close games. I think they just liked the matchup with him and Anthony Davis. They weren't scared that Anthony Davis was going to take advantage of that. Zubac, you could argue, even outplayed AD in certain points of this game, even though I thought AD had a nice game outside of being injured for a little bit there. So yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. It's Kawhi when he's healthy. It's Paul George. It's probably going to be one of Reggie Jackson or John Wall, and then whatever assortment of wings have the hot hand, I guess, is the way to go.
And it's interesting that Kawhi played 21 minutes because I don't think he checked in until about 6 minutes left in the second quarter. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, so it was a lot of 21 of the last 30-something minutes that,
and then started the second half, right? Kawhi did. So yeah, it was strange. It kind of
felt a strange rotation.
It felt like the entire rotation was based on just getting a feel for Kawhi and and feeling him out, and then just sort of building the rotation, as the game went on. You want to talk about the Lakers a little bit here?
I just want to say this: 9 of 45 from the 3-point line tonight. Only 9 made threes on 40. First of all, I don't know what's a more shocking number. They made only 9, or that they took 45. I mean, 45 is a big number for a team that can't shoot. And then you had a lot of offers. You had Russell Westbrook, first of all, 0 for 11 tonight overall, 0 for 6 from the 3-point line. Kendrick Nunn, 0 for 4. Austin, 0 for 1. You just had some guys that were not making shots tonight, and I think that's going to be the status quo for the.
You mentioned the 45 threes that they took. Damian Jones getting in on the party, taking a 3-pointer. What's going on with that? Why?
I mean,
Why are you doing that?
He's got as good a chance as any.
I guess. I mean, I think by the statistics, he does. Look, the Lakers, I thought, did everything other than the 3-point shooting. They didn't turn the ball over, right? You compare this game to the Golden State game to start the season for them, right? Where they were turning the ball over. They weren't defending at all very much against the Warriors, and they obviously weren't making any shots. LeBron saying that famously after the game. Tonight, it was a little bit different, right? They kept turnovers low, just 9 turnovers in this game. I thought they defended pretty well overall, and then there was at least effort on that end, and I thought they had like really nice stretches of playing good defense. But and I guess the reason to take 45 shots is, hey, if we're not going to make a high percentage, let's just take a bunch of them just so that we can start spamming the 3-point line and just try to get some of these things to fall. At this point, I guess it's like a numbers game. They're treating the 3-point line like it's Tinder at this point. So I just maybe that's the logic there. But how many threes? Like, they have to take 50 threes to make 10 of them. That's a really bad percentage.
It's really bad. It's really bad. The one, I mean, the note you mentioned Anthony Davis. I thought up and down, like he had spectacular. I mean, Anthony Davis can be spectacular in his great moments, but there's also a lot of moments where you're just kind of like, that's your moment. They're like, come on, make the play, come up with that one. There was a play late where he missed a shot at the rim and kept running past the stanchion. And it led, I believe, to Luke Kennard 3. And that's one of those plays where you're thinking, you didn't need to run those extra 10 steps. Just you missed the layup, get back and don't give up the wide open mid-range jumper that you gave up there. So there were just too many plays like that were frustrating. But I will say this, LeBron James played 37 minutes tonight. He only shot 7 of 17, but he, again, wasn't a perfect game. But he just still has flashes where you go, is that the best player in the world? And again,
that block that he had at the rim there, and it was there's just
he had a couple of them.
Yeah,
I thought he had a couple of these big time plays tonight at the rim. But 20 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Didn't shoot the ball well, as I mentioned, but he still looks so strong, quick, able to get to the rim. And I mean, he's got to be in hell. This is the worst constructed LeBron lineup we've seen probably since, I don't know, 2006.
It's a prison of his own making, but can we please free LeBron James? Hashtag free LeBron at this point. It's just, it's a shame to see him waste away these years, whatever he's got left here on a team like this.
I don't mind.
You don't care. I don't know. Whatever. Our opening week overreactions are next. And after you listen to this show, make sure you listen to Game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game by subscribing to Locked On NBA. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. It is Friday, which means we are counting down to the weekend with our weekly power rankings. Adam, what are we doing today?
Well, in the spirit, every team's played other than the 76ers, who've now played twice. So naturally, we might as well predict the rest of the season. We've seen enough. We've seen enough from everyone.
We got the sample size we need.
We might as well go ahead and get into some major overreactions that I might kind of believe.
Okay.
Like, is it okay
overreactions that could be true?
They could be true. I'm just saying they could be true.
Let's do it.
I have one honorable mention. It's because we already talked about the 76ers. I wanted to keep it in here, but this Joel Embiid not talking to the media. Game number 2, Harden looking like an MVP. If you wanted to do the MVP ladder right now, I know they're 0-2, so we can't do it because of their record, Wes. The record, we can't do it. But James Harden has looked like his old MVP self. Yeah. Joel Embiid, nowhere near the MVP conversation at the moment. My honorable mention take here is that Joel Embiid is going to demand a trade at some point this season. Here's the thing. Here's the kicker. He will ultimately rescind it. I think that this is going to simmer right up to a boil, maybe pass to a boil for a brief minute, and then you cool things off.
It's funny that you bring that up because we're not that far removed from people wondering if Joel Embiid was going to ask for a trade when all this stuff with Ben Simmons and then everything was going on with that. Like, is he just going to get over it at that point and then possibly ask for a trade? I think there might have been some front offices even asking themselves, hey, is this a guy that we might want to target as the next disgruntled superstar? I love it as an overreaction. So in this hypothetical, do we find out in the media about this trade request, or is this something that happens behind closed doors and we never know about it?
Oh, no, we hear about it, of course. Are you kidding me? I mean, you have to understand something. 2 years ago when they flamed out in the playoffs, Joel Embiid had no problem saying it's Ben Simmons' fault. I mean, he basically said that. He said, it's my teammate. And look, I think it went under, we kind of swept it under the rug. Ben Simmons' fault. He was right, but he still was willing to throw a teammate under the bus like that. Last year, kind of threw James Harden under the bus.
Yep.
Joel Embiid is not, I'm not trying to say like this is like, he's not the only player to have done this. I'm just saying it's not out of, I don't want to say out of character, but it wouldn't be out of the norm for him to go ahead and say something like this and say, hey, I want out. So to me, I think it simmers to a boil. I think Daryl Morey works his magic and gets it to simmer down. And then ultimately, I think those two find a way to mesh.
So you heard it here first, Philadelphia fans. Stop booing your best player.
Yeah, don't boo your best player. He's sensitive, guys.
Yeah.
He's never himself the process. He's never been booed like that. All right, number 5. Here's the real one.
Okay.
LeBron James looks good. I think I'm watching LeBron right now and I'm wondering, what is he playing for? Like, what is he? He's in the LA. He signed this deal. Okay. Clearly, they don't look like they can compete. Like, say what you will. They don't look like a team move away from winning a championship. They look so far away. So I start to think, what are LeBron's actual goals right now? Because he's not dumb. He knows this. Pass Kareem, we all know that, and extend his career as long as it can. I think he's going to pass Kareem's record this year sometime in January or February. Then I think he's going to shut it down for the year. I think hamstring here. There's going to be a little bit of a quad strain here, a little hip strain. And I think we might, it'll remind me almost of the Lonzo Ball year, his first year in LA,
I was
where
going to say, he's already done this. He's already
he's
done
already
this
done it
before.
once,
It's
where
not an
just all of a sudden
overreaction.
it's like, we're almost
It's
at
almost,
the end.
it'd be almost weird if he didn't do this. It would be, he's already done it. It's part of, it's part of the MO. Look, like I just said, he probably does do that.
I mean, you might
It's
think the only thing is, Wes, like, I don't see him asking for a trade. His son is in high school. He's in LA for all of these different, because usually that would be the move. Maybe like then you get to the trade deadline and say, hey, I want out of this. But I just think, you know what, this year's shot, I'm not going to ruin my body. I'm trying to play 5-6 more years.
Yeah. He's already like, you could see the body language stuff already coming. The LeBron body language stuff, when you know that he's already upset with his teammates, you could just tell. And there was a moment there in the fourth quarter against the Clippers where he was actually playing really hard defensively. And I'm not saying his teammates weren't, but they were also sort of screwing up a little bit. The Clippers missed a shot. It went through like LeBron was on one side of the rim. The ball rebounded off the other side of the rim, where the side opposite LeBron was standing. Went through like 3 different Lakers players' arms and back into the and the Clippers got an offensive rebound. And he just sinks his shoulders and does the LeBron thing. And there was a few different moments like that where he's just looking around and he's like, what am I supposed to do with this? He's already calling on his team after one game saying we can't shoot, which is true, which almost makes it more sad. And so we're already seeing the body language stuff coming up, where is typically when LeBron starts to shut down. This happened in Cleveland. Bad body language. He shuts it down a little bit, goes on a 2-week vacation to who knows where. And the next thing you know, at the trade deadline, they flip over half the roster. This is what they do.
That is what they do. Number 4 for me, Paolo Banchero's got to win the Rookie of the Year award in a landslide. We did this last week where we talked about good rookies, and like you got to eliminate one, and this is hard. If you told me you only had to keep one, I've seen enough. What did he have? Like 27, 8, 5. I mean,
Hasn't been done since LeBron.
I mean, he had a little bit of everything. His game is just so mature. Like he still has a long, it's not perfectly polished, but it's like further along than most players, just in terms of all the footwork, all the technique, the passing, the vision, the understanding of the game. I just think he's a really, really good player, and I would not be surprised if he put up some pretty eye-popping numbers.
I love Paolo. I'm a big fan. I'm buying all the Paolo stock that I can find. It's weird when we're so removed from the NBA draft, but we remember in the lead up, everybody was like, well, maybe it's Chet, maybe it's Jabari, maybe. And Paolo was just sort of sitting there, and the Magic were like, we're taking Paolo, and everybody was super surprised when they ended up taking Paolo. And then you watch this stuff. I mean, I know Chet is hurt, and Jabari kind of had an up and down summer league, but it's so clear that Paolo is the best one right out the gate. Whoever has the best career, who knows? But I love him.
Yeah, he's really good. I'm trying to go in order of spiciness here. I'm going to go with this next one. Jason Tatum is going to win the scoring title this year.
Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else. I got even more overreaction. I think he's winning MVP, Adam.
That's what you think, but I mean, that's too spicy. You're overreacting. Come on, Wes. It's only been one game. What are you doing? Calm down. He's only winning the scoring title.
All right, scoring title. I like it. Why?
He averaged 30 points per game after the All-Star break last year. You go from a team last year that obviously was just fantastic defensively. I think they're going to be fantastic defensively this year. But I just wonder if there's a little more freedom. I watch a guy play. He looked a little more polished, a little more confident as a volume scorer. And I just wonder if they're going to be a little more offensive-minded this year, and in particular, a little more player-friendly. And he looked to me like a guy that was ready to have his 30-point-per-game season.
What are the odds on the scoring title here? Trying to find them really quick. I can't find them, but I like it.
All right, number two. The Pelicans are hosting at least one round of the playoffs. At least one round of the playoffs this year.
Now you're talking my language. Let's go.
And it's because of my guy Herb Jones. No, I'm kidding. In part, he's very good. Yeah. He's very good.
Talk about odds. Plus, last I checked, he's plus 4,000 for Defensive Player of the Year. That's a little tasty right there. You sprinkle that a little bit, see what happens. The Pelicans looked awesome. Everybody was so excited to see Zion, obviously, come back in their opening game against the Brooklyn Nets. And Zion was part of the show. He scored whatever it was, 25 points, something like that. But you got great contributions from Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum. Herb Jones's defense was just off the chain. It was so good. Just, getting around screens that he has no business getting around, staying on top, staying in front of Kevin Durant. And just as a team, they looked so good. Defensively, I was really impressed with them. And it was kind of overwhelming to see them just completely obliterate the Brooklyn Nets. And they just looked more organized. They looked more talented across the board. They looked awesome.
I'm having a hard. I mean, the Ingram and Zion both looking great. That was one of my big questions. Is it going to be one of those teams where only one of them looks good? No, they both looked great. I think that team just looks at they're in a healthy spot. And Zion, you can overread into this. If all the other indicators weren't good, I wouldn't even mention it. But Zion just has had a different presence to him this year. Open and thoughtful with the media. He seems joy and togetherness. He just seems to be excited to be a part of this group. And that was my biggest question. So I'm buying the Pels. But Wes, it's so hard when you see one team that's really, that just stomps another one in the first game, because you wonder, is it because this team is good or that team's bad? I think it's both. And that's why my number one high after one game is that Kevin Durant is going to be traded. He is going to be traded, and maybe sooner rather than later. The Pelicans look great. The Nets look terrible. Let's end the charade. Yes, he signed to a long-term deal, but I think they're going to come to a point. Maybe that point is January. Maybe it's December. Maybe it's February. But they're going to come to a point that says, we can hold on to this guy for 3 years, and all 3 years are going to be miserable. Or we could try to trade him now and just start something over. Yeah. The choice will be obvious. I'm taking Kevin Durant to be traded, and I think it's going to be the biggest story of the season, because wherever he lands, that team throws their hat in the ring for being a contender.
That is very spicy. And of all the ones, while it might be the spiciest, it also might be the most plausible and likely to happen, right?
Right.
Because I can't help but watch that Brooklyn Nets team. And look, this isn't new. They've been kind of doing a version of whatever this thing is for a few years now. They just look so disorganized. It doesn't seem like they have any sort of system. Watching that Pelicans Nets game, I watched the replay of it this morning, and I had in my notes, like, the Pelicans defense looks great, like I just said, but I also like the Nets are doing them a favor by just not knowing what to do and just having no plan on offense. They come down. I understand that they're hoopers. I understand that KD can hoop. I understand that Kyrie is a hooper. I understand there's hoopers and they hoop. I get it. But at some point you need some sort of offensive plan, because they just bring the ball up and they kind of look around and are like, you want to set a screen for me? Okay, just like a little one though. And then you just go around this half set screen and then you just dribble into some sort of 18-footer. And sometimes it works because you got KD and Kyrie, but they make it so much harder for themselves than it needs to be. And I don't really know why. And I don't know how you fix that, because it's just not been fixable for now 4 years now.
And one of the questions this season, we got this Victor W. fella who's an all-time prospect. Brooklyn owns their own draft pick. I'm just saying, would they rather be a play-in team and get swept again, which is what they look like? I mean, obviously there's a lot of time. I'm just extrapolating the season from what I've seen so far and what we've seen over the summer and back to last year. Would you rather be an 8 seed or a 7 seed, or maybe, who knows, you luck up and get a 6 seed? Would you set the clock and try to get this Victor W. fella and start over? They have some pieces. I don't know that you can move every single one of them. What's the market for Ben Simmons? What's the market for Kyrie Irving? Who knows?
There's no market for Ben Simmons. Maybe a little, and not really one for Kyrie.
There's not really one for Kyrie either. But I mean, again, is that team going to win? Maybe you just play him until you lose, and then this summer there's something. But I think with Kevin Durant, you look at that and go, of course, he's still one of the best players in the NBA. Is he mercurial? Of course. Teams take it's a risk to bring him into their culture, but he's still a great player, and every team in the NBA would be willing to take a swing on him. So that's the piece. Keep Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving. Tank for Victor W. That's
a plan.
That's what I learned from one game, Wes.
Good overreactions. We will continue to have our countdowns to the weekend as the season goes on. Remember to subscribe to new episodes of Locked On NBA wherever you listen to podcasts for 30 minutes in the NBA's top stories every day. Until next Friday, you can find me over at Locked On Heat and Adam over on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day.